hello guys, what's up? We're making another video about scary animated stories part 3. Remember I said I don't even know how many likes I said. That's not long ago, but a little bit long ago. A little bit long ago. I didn't remember how many likes I even said, but we didn't get there, and I feel bad for it. Guys, if you don't do it, I think I gotta close my channel, cause it's not just worth it. Okay? JK, got ya. I'm not gonna do that. Or whatever you do, I'm not gonna block my channel or something like that. I don't even know how to block my channel either. I don't even know how to delete my channel either. Hehe. Psych. Got you, buddy. But we're still looking at those those scary stories. So first one is a black-eyed woman, and we got a big, like a big gigantic eye. I don't even know who has that big eye, but someone does. And now this is a black-eyed woman. A black-eyed woman. Wow. Oh my gosh. If I saw it, I'm just gonna straight run. That's what am I gonna do? Or there's one more thing. I'm gonna take out my phone and start recording. If I lived, that would have like a ton of subscribers. That's why. So let me know in the comments below if what are you gonna do? Are you gonna run away? Are you gonna take a selfie with it? Or you're gonna make a video? Please let me know in the comments below. This is your job, okay? You have to do your job. I do my job every day. I make my videos. Now you have to comment, like, and subscribe. Do your job, everybody. So let's just press play.
I was 11 years old at the time. It was a horrible event. I lived in Texas, but my family decided to go to California during the summer of 2015.
Okay.
It wasn't going to be a long time, so my family of 6, including me, stayed at my aunt's house.
AKA Infinite.
One night, my parents went to a party, and both of my brothers and I didn't want to go, so we stayed behind. My aunt's daughter stayed with us too. It was around 6 p.m. My parents said they were coming back around 2 a.m.
Okay.
Hearing that gave me goosebumps, since we were staying at a 2-story house. I've always been scared of 2-story houses for this reason.
But I'm not.
As soon as our parents left, we all decided to eat snacks. Well, we wanted to, but there weren't any.
Me too.
My cousin asked us if we wanted to go to the store with her. Since she was already 19, she could drive by herself.
Oh, I would go.
My brother said yes, but I told him I do want snacks, but I don't want to go. I thought that my brothers would want to stay behind too, since they were just 2 years older than me. But instead, they just said, okay. They all left without me.
Bro.
I was all alone.
Bro. No, don't do it.
15 minutes
Run.
in, I was sitting on the couch playing on my iPad. Suddenly, I heard a sound coming from upstairs.
See?
I decided to check what it was.
It's a zombie up
But
there.
as soon as I started to go up the stairs,
okay?
a glass cup fell down the stairs. I ran to my uncle's room and hid inside the closet. After 2 minutes of hiding, the lights in the room started flashing. I could see it from the crack under the door.
Okay.
I wanted to text my brother, but I left the iPad on the couch. Soon after, I heard another sound from upstairs.
Bro, what?
Well, that's how I knew that whatever was doing all the scary stuff was definitely upstairs.
Bro.
I decided to run out of the house, and then try to ask the next door neighbors to let me into their house for a bit. But before I could, I checked the upstairs window when I got outside, and I saw a figure in one of the rooms.
I would not do that.
It was a clear image since it was barely 7 p.m. The figure was definitely the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I saw a woman with a black dress. She was pale and had dark eyes. It was as if she accidentally messed up her makeup and got black makeup all around her eyes. She also looked kind of like a nun. I stood there, watching her for like 10 seconds. And then I saw a car driving in from the side. I moved near the garage and the car came closer. It parked at the house. I realized it was my cousin with both of my brothers. I was relieved. They asked me why I was outside, and I said I wanted to take a picture of the house from outside. I didn't tell them the truth. They didn't realize I didn't have my iPad when I said this. Once we got inside the house, I followed them upstairs. I was obviously behind them since I was scared. Nothing happened the rest of the day until that night. It was 10 p.m. It was raining. I just wanted to see the thunder, so I moved the curtains to look out the window. A bit of light came in because of the lightning. And that's when I saw it again. The figure was in the neighbor's parkway, just staring at the house. I will never forget that night, no matter how hard I try. Sometimes, while I'm having fun, I'll stop and remember, and the thought always ruins my day. The thought that the woman from that night might always be out there looking for me.
Rainy day, I was walking home. On my walk, which is about a mile or so long, I had to walk through a cemetery. Not a stereotypical, shabby, haunted one, but one that had many people walking through and was usually full of maintenance employees. I remember walking by a group of them sitting on benches on a break. I thought nothing of it, as he stood up and started walking at a fair distance. After a bit, I looked back at him and he looked down quickly. He was in the same baby blue uniform as the others and had a gray beard, but I made out a name tag, Frank P. As the other workers faded from sight, he was still behind me. I began to worry. A moment later, he called out, "It's wet, huh?" in a friendly voice. I chuckled politely and agreed. My worries increased a second later when I walked out and he was still behind me. I was close to my house now and it started to pour. My house in sight, I started jogging to get there. I glanced back and I saw the man, visibly angry, start running. As my house got closer, I began to sprint. I didn't look back as I slung the key out of my backpack and opened the door. I looked behind me. I saw the man in the middle of the street. I walked over to the phone and dialed 911. Before I called, I looked out the window. He was gone. I told my mom what happened when she got home. she didn't believe me.
Same as me.
That night, I couldn't sleep. There was lightning outside, and I could see occasional shadows from the flashes through my window in my living room. I lay watching the flashes when I saw a strange outline.
Wow.
I looked closer and saw an outline of a man. I stood up and walked out of my room. I walked into the living room.
Don't
It was
do that.
completely dark outside. I stood in the doorway and waited.
I would.
A car's headlight illuminated the pale, shallow face of Frank P. I ran into my room and locked the door. I never saw him after that night.
That's what I would do.
But whenever I see that baby blue uniform, I think back to that night and that haunting image of a skeletal, unnatural face of Frank P.
Okay, this is the other one, guys. Drop a like. Subscribe if you're new. And
This
comment.
is a true horrifying incident that happened to me when I was very young. The year was 2007, and I was an 8-year-old girl studying at a primary school. The school was old, and it was built after the war and Japanese invasion in my country. I heard that there were Japanese army men and local people killed on the land brutally. And many teachers and students claim that they have encountered paranormal activity. Although I've never seen anything paranormal at the school, this place still gave me a creepy vibe. My class was located on the 2nd floor, just beside the girls' bathroom. The chilling part is, we could see an old cemetery park from there before entering the bathroom. One day, when I was studying in my class, I wanted to pee. So, I asked the teacher's permission and went to the bathroom. I got into the first stall and locked the door. There was no light or anyone in there. It was just me. Everything was silent until suddenly, someone banged and kicked the door that was in front of me. I was in shock and froze for the first seconds. I don't know why, but I didn't scream for my life. I just quickly pushed against the door so the person wouldn't break in. After a few minutes, the banging stopped. I waited for a few more minutes and opened the door. There was no one in there. I walked out, ready to go back to my classroom. Then, I saw a student with broad shoulders and chocolate skin standing opposite of my direction. He was looking at me with a smile on his face. I froze because he was one of my classmates, and he actually sat near me. I think, after he saw me go out of the bathroom, he followed me, and that was him inside. I quickly returned to my classroom and didn't speak of anything about it to anyone. The student soon went in and sat down quietly. I cannot recall his name, but I still remember this incident even now. I will never forget this horrifying experience. I wonder what would have happened to me if I didn't lock the door, or if he had successfully broke in that day.